Welcome to the Last Beer Show. Rolling. What's up, Jason?
Hey, Wayne. How's it going?
Good. You have a good week?
I did have a good week,
Good month?
I did. It had an interesting month.
That's what I heard.
Yes. But it had a good weekend. I was in the mountains this weekend, up in Boone, North Carolina, and Asheville.
Yeah.
And so took some time to get away. And then 2 weeks, last weekend, we were in Jamaica for our 15th anniversary. And then the weekend before that, we were and we're going to talk about this in the travels, but we were in Austin.
In Austin. Yeah. We talked a little bit about that in the last episode.
Yep, we did.
So what have you consumed? Any good bottles lately? Oh, and wait, before we go, we've got a guest.
Yeah, we do have a guest.
Can't forget our guest.
Hello.
Mr. Mark Collings.
Mark Collins in the house.
Hey, guys. Happy to be here.
Happy to have
Thanks
you.
for having me.
We're going to get a little bit into who you are and your history with beer.
Okay.
And I'm excited to hear about it, actually, because he knows a few things. He's been around.
Yeah, he does. You can follow him on Instagram right now. You can check him out at Craft Couple on Instagram. And he's joining us. He and his wife live in Manhattan, and he does some work here in Atlanta. So we're glad to have him while he's here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, thank you, guys.
So what have let's start with you. What have you consumed recently that caught your attention?
Well, I just consumed a nice Cherry Street take on a New England IPA, which was delicious.
Yeah. Which one was this? This was the Ninja Kick.
Ninja Kick.
Yeah, we've also got a crowd here.
Yeah,
So
we do.
there might be
We got
some background noise.
We got a studio audience
studio
tonight
audience.
for the first podcast.
Family or friends.
So
Thanks for having us.
yes, you're very welcome. Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah, Ninja Kick, from what I understand, is
Ninja
Cake. All Amarillo. It's on all Amarillo beer, which is kind of a throwback. Amarillo isn't as used as much as it used to be. It's all about Mosaic and Citra and Galaxy.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
very good beer.
Very good beer. And right now we're drinking a Trillium Cutting Tiles double IPA with raw wildflower honey, but not the regular version. We're actually drinking the El Dorado version, which is pretty tasty. Actually,
it's really good.
You get the honey for sure.
Yeah, lots of honey.
Juicy.
Yep, juicy.
How about you?
Well, of course, I was in Asheville this weekend, so I drank some really kick butt Burial, and I drank some really, really good Zebulon Artisan Ales. And then I also had a really good Scofflaw released a new beer, the Coffee Absinthium Stout, which is a pretty good beer. Scofflaw is doing some really good stuff in the Atlanta area, and the Coffee Absinthium is it's a really, really good stout. They're kind of known for IPAs. I think one of their head guys came from Russian River, I believe, and they kind of are more known for IPAs. But they're killing it with some stouts too.
Cool.
So that's what I've had.
Cool.
What about you?
I have been fascinated recently with some of the really light table beers, some sours and fruit beers, down around 3%, 4%. And there's just a ton of them on the market right now. You just don't see them or you don't notice them because there's nothing on the label that calls them out. But look, Evo Twin is just absolutely killing it.
Yeah, which
that
one in
space.
particular?
The Sour Bikini and the other one, it's escaping me. Dang. A couple others. The Hallow Berliner Weiss with the fruit in it, which I believe is a 4.2, really light, and it just fantastic fruit. Kind of like some of those Framboise and some of those Belgian, I think I'm pronouncing that right, Belgian, table beers that are really fruit-based. They're aged on fruit, and they're just barreled, aged for a long time, and they're all around 2-3%. And it's, because I'm thinking it's about to get really hot and it's summer. And so if I'm going to take a 4-pack to the beach and, you can go crush town on that and you're fine. Like you've essentially had 2 IPAs.
Still rock your mom bod.
Right? Yeah. You can still, you can party and everybody thinks you're throwing down, but you're just nursing. Yeah. Which is really, it's cool. I had jokes on them, I guess. But anyway, I've been
pool beer.
Really exploring that. I've sought out some New England IPAs and I've got a few, but I haven't really cracked them open yet. Although I brewed one this weekend. I knew we were getting into this episode. I knew it was coming, and we had talked about discussing this, I was like, I've got to make one. So I brewed one this past Saturday, and it's really weird. Actually, my brother, Tim, who helps me out with it, is kind of my brew partner in crime.
Not the brother that just started at Trillium.
No, the other one. The one who's younger than that guy. He was a little freaked out. He was a little freaked out. There's like no hop additions till 30 minutes into the boil. Not a single one. So it was like, we were both a little uncomfortable with it. I mean, we had a blast. Actually, the lid blew off it this morning. So we had to. So
some happy yeast.
Yeah, we were a little concerned, but it looks like negative pressure didn't happen. Like, I think it was always positive pressure coming out of it, so I'm not too worried about it. It just leaked on the floor a little bit. We put a blow off tube on it or something, and call it a day.
No, that was my first home brewing experience. Was I brewed a stout, and I put it in the carboy and put a regular 2-way valve on there on the top, and at 3 a.m. We heard kaboom.
It was all over the ceiling, right?
We were disoriented. I was like, "What the heck is going on?" And I looked, and it had shot all the way up into the ceiling, and there was stout all the way up in the ceiling and down the wall and over the carpet.
Yeah,
and
I've brewed.
So the lesson learned was blow off tubes.
Blow off tubes. Yeah.
Blow off tube.
So we should do a whole episode just on like homebrew mishaps.
Yeah, exactly.
Homebrewing gone awry.
Yeah. The importance of blow off tubes.
The importance. Don't trust a 99-cent bubbler.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. There's real pressure
Airlock.
in there.
Don't trust a 99-cent airlock.
No.
Right.
Hey, so Wayne, real quick question though. Were you surprised at how easy it was to brew a New England IPA or Northeast IPA?
Yes and no, I guess. I don't know. I hadn't really thought about it that way. But the oats give it a color. Mm-hmm. kind of like a sediment in the wort when it's done boiling. The way the oats and that protein or whatever it is just sitting down in the water, just hanging out, and so when we were cooling it, the mosquitoes were going insane. We must have skimmed about 20 mosquitoes off the top of it. So
they were like,
and maybe it's like partial mosquito, mash. No, it's like so.
Mosquito mash.
I think.
Such a hazy IPA.
Tastes like small vampires.
The mosquitoes are just
So no, I mean it's a lot of hops. It's just no hops early, right?
Yeah,
which
exactly.
is really great. And using the oats, it was funny. We actually put them in a cloth bag because we were like, geez, how are we gonna? It just seemed like that was going to be
want to get a stuck mash.
Yeah, just be a mess. We're like, well, let's put those in a bag. And I think that worked pretty well, but we were kind of clowning around with it. I mean, we had all day, so we didn't really care. So it was like, take the bag, put it in our good strainer, and then like just keep pouring, like 165-degree water over it.
Yeah.
Just keep going until what's coming out is kind of clear. Yeah. So that we wasted probably 45 minutes doing that because we had nothing but time. We're just having fun, day drinking. My family's out of town at the beach, so
yeah.
When the cat's away.
So we started talking about it. We started talking about Northeast IPAs, and you can probably sense what the theme of this.
Let's keep going with
show
that.
is
it's
about.
A hot topic.
It's Northeast IPAs, and so you were brewing it. We're drinking it. We actually moved on from the Trillium. What are we drinking right now?
Momentary Inception.
This is the Burial Momentary Inception, which is a collaboration with Burial out of Asheville and The Answer, which is out of, I believe they're out of Richmond, Virginia. This is an amazingly tasty, juicy IPA from them. In my opinion, it's probably the best IPA they brewed, and several of the folks here have said that. It's a really good IPA. What do you think?
It's going to sound like we are. I haven't put it in my thing yet, my glass yet.
Oh.
It sounds like we're firing through these, but each can is getting split.
There's five ways. There's 5 of us in here, so we're not drinking very much.
That's funny.
So we're drinking the Burial and The Answer Momentary Inception. We're talking Northeast IPAs. And let's talk a little bit about the history of North IPA. So I did a little bit of research on this Northeast IPA, trend, if you will. I did, actually.
Fantastic.
And what I came to find out was supposedly the grandfather of Northeast IPAs is the Alchemist Heady Topper, which is a beer I've had on multiple occasions.
Really?
It's probably, to me, it's that classic, to me, it's a classic IPA. I didn't really think of it as crazy different, but it is hazy. Obviously, the color, you can't see through it. It's hazy, and it is juicier, more tropical fruity. It's not as tropical fruity as some of the Northeast IPAs that are out there. I think it's a more traditional IPA in terms of flavor goes, but they say that that Hetty Topper and the Alchemist was credited for starting this Northeast IPA thing.
Was.
Mark, you got any thoughts on that?
Well, and they scored 100 on that one too, as well. So, that's probably something that kind of kickstarted the whole, Northeast IPA craze, really.
Yeah, and the other thing that really helped
copycats.
Yeah, the other thing that really helped the Alchemist was that the production was so limited on Hetty Topper that getting it was just incredibly difficult, and you had to be there to get it. And that was the first time that I know of, that I can think of, that breweries had releases like that were that like popular.
Well, if you're going to start scoring that well on Beer Advocate, then people are going to start wanting to do clones, home brewing, and maybe even other breweries are going to start wanting to do it too.
They're obviously incredibly hot right now. We think about like some Northeast examples, which are Trillium, Tired Hands, Treehouse, Alchemist, Hill Farmstead, Other Half, which is in Brooklyn. Those are the more like traditional, the ones that we hear of the most. But then what's cool is that it's moved out into the country, and you see it at places like Modern Times in California, and Monkish, and the Veil, the Answer, which are both in.
It's great that it's trending and it's exploded into other areas of the country. For even if someone doesn't believe like it's an IPA, even if it's its own thing, which is fine. I'll concede that if a purist wants to, but that a style can kind of grow organically like that, just through 5,000 breweries across the country. It starts in one corner and goes to the other one, to where even in the exact polar opposite side of the country, Stone is going to do one.
Yeah, exactly.
So when you've reached all the way down there, then you've made a style that is trending and that people are obviously enjoying and consuming it.
And honestly, like from a lot of people that I've talked to, a lot of people view these Northeast IPAs as a gateway into IPAs, because you have to remember that for the longest time, an IPA spelled West Coast IPA, which was piney and resiny and like bitter hops. And I know that for me, the very first IPA that I really enjoyed, that turned me on, was Creature Comforts Tropicalia, and it was just because it didn't taste like a resinous hoppy IPA. It was good IPA. It was fruity, and so I think that a lot of people view these Northeast IPAs as a gateway into.
I can see that. I can see that because they're very juicy and they have that acidity, like it's a real juice blend from like Dole. Like one of those ones like pineapple, orange, and cranberry.
Yeah. So on that note, we're going to be opening an Alchemist Focal Banger, which is their other big IPA. Not as big as Hetty Topper, but in my opinion, it's just as good as Hetty Topper. We're going to open that now, but let's talk about it.
Sure.
Which one? Hetty Topper? Well, I was going to ask a question, and maybe, Mark, you can answer this around how that acidity, which really is the thing to me that differentiates a New England IPA. Like, there are other hazy beers, heavy Weizen, right?
Sure.
So that's not necessarily an original concept that it's unfiltered and hazy.
Right.
But I think, and I've heard through the grapevine, I'm not positive about this, that what makes the New England IPA so acidic, and that being its real differentiator, is it's not real bitter, it's acidic and bright and floral, is that hops are added after the boil, but not necessarily in a secondary fermenter. They're in the primary fermentation. There are actually hops in there, which, maybe years ago someone would have said is blasphemous. Like you wouldn't want to put anything that isn't sanitized inside of your primary fermenter, but they're doing it and it's working.
They're doing it, it's successful. Yeah. I think that's a big part of it. And the worry about it not being, in the primary fermenter and hops are naturally, they're naturally antioxidant. So you're not going to have any issues there. So why not try it? Why not see what happens? That's what these guys are doing. It's interesting with this style. there's almost no bittering hops whatsoever. So bittering hops, you throw those in to start
Very
the boil.
early in the boil.
They hang out there the whole time of the boil. The more they hang out, the more, the
more you
bitterness
put,
comes
the
out.
more bitter the beer.
So this is kind of like flipping the coin over and saying, okay, well, let's use the same ingredient. Let's feature hops, but let's do it in a different way, and let's see what we can get out of that. Yeah. And we're getting all these delicious, juicy flavors.
It's great out of all these new flavors.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I will say that I had a conversation with the head of Zebulon Artisan Ales outside of Asheville and Morganton. And he actually, Morganton, North Carolina, and he's actually brewing a Northeast IPA. And a matter of fact, on the board, it says another stupid Northeast IPA.
Awesome.
And, we were talking about it, and he said, listen, it's not hazy because I wanted it to be hazy. It's just hazy because that's what it is. It's unfiltered. Yep. And I didn't, I'm not trying to make this hazy by adding flour or oats or anything like that. That's just how it is. And, he said that, he pondered back and forth whether or not he was going to brew one, because he said, seems like everybody's brewing one, but he said he wanted to challenge himself to see if he could even do it.
That brewery one we just poured is epic.
The Burial, the Burial Momentary Inception
that's it.
is absolutely spectacular.
Yeah. They're also pretty good.
They do. Yeah. They do good.
Burial does a pretty good job.
Yeah, Burial and the collaboration is Burial and The Answer, which is in Richmond, Virginia. And if you get a chance to get that beer, I highly recommend it, because it's probably one of the best beers this year, and probably the best IPA they brewed.
And their labels are amazing.
Yeah.
All the illustrations of the labels are so cool.
Yep. So, we talked about some examples, I even like Cherry Street here in Atlanta and Torch Top, they did a Hops to Leon Northeast version, which was really spectacular. I think you're seeing a lot of breweries that are genuinely interested in this style, that want to see if they can come up with a version of it for themselves. And that's where I wonder if people will take it seriously, because there is a lot of pushback in the beer community of, whether or not to take the Northeast IPA style seriously.
There are purists who say it's beer, but it's not an IPA. But I don't know. I mean, the ingredient profile is identical. Yeah. So now you're just calling out process.
Yeah, it's really process.
I mean, some of them you can use some oats and some adjuncts in order to get the fuzzy mouthfeel or the creamy, because the malt profile maybe is closer to an English cream ale. Mm-hmm. But still,
it's very simple.
It's still it's still a pale ale.
Yeah,
you're still using pale malts for the most part. So I'm down. I'm willing to call it an IPA.
You know what? You call them purists. I would actually call them traditionalists.
Traditionalists
is right. Because a purist
that's a better word. That's a better word.
I'm looking at that saying that it's only a traditionalist who wants to live in the box that's saying that this isn't an IPA.
I stand corrected.
But what's very interesting to me is that if we drink this Focal Banger, because we drank this Focal Banger after the Momentary Inception, which was super juicy tropical fruits, and then this Focal Banger is just like, again, hops. Yeah. It's hops.
Yeah.
I so thought you were talking about having to drink an IPA as it comes off of the line. At the moment of inception.
No.
You got me there with that one.
That would be good, though. But
because you're not supposed to drink an IPA after, 5 minutes after it's been bottled or something?
Yeah, you got to age it for at least 2 days.
It's been ruined after 10 minutes.
You got to age
completely
it for at least
ruined.
2 days. So
2 days is the aging. If you're going to age a beer.
So I pulled out another beer from the Happy Cooler, and this is Treehouse's Haze, which is their double IPA, 8.2%. Obviously, Treehouse is another
I've had that one,
very well known in the Northeast IPA sector. They also brew amazing stouts like Good Morning and other. But Treehouse is they're very well known in that space too. People line up for their can releases. So we're going to open up a Haze now, and let's talk about it. Like, is there a reason why we shouldn't take Northeast IPAs seriously?
No, not in my mind.
Not in my mind either.
I take anything that trends pretty seriously. Yeah. Even 2 years ago, when every IPA had to have citrus, like literal orange or lemon in it, like that was a thing a couple years ago. And of course, you buy them all and you try them. Mm-hmm. And then when sours really, Berliner Weiss was not even part of our landscape 5 years ago here, or Goza, right? Uh-huh. Nobody was drinking Goza 5 years ago. All of a sudden, boom, they exploded last year, really. Well, I think it was last summer Goza really kind of blew up on the scene.
Westbrook's have been around a while, but they really got big.
Yeah, there have been breweries doing them, right?
Yeah.
But nobody was really drinking them.
No.
I mean,
because there's some German sitting back giggling.
They needed a gateway into that thing, and that's where Creature Comforts Athena came in. Creature Comforts brewed Athena to be a gateway into sours. They call it
Berliner
a
Weiss is good for that.
It is really
because some of them are marginal tartness. Some of the saltiness comes through, which kind of I think makes it soft and accessible a little bit.
It's not puckery.
Yeah,
it's not the kind of beer where you drink it and you feel like the acid's coming off your teeth.
We were mentioning it earlier. Perfect beer for warm weather.
Warm weather? Oh, yeah. Goza, sour, table sours, table fruit beers, all that stuff.
So wonderful to drink. You can drink a lot of them. You don't have to worry about falling over yourself. It's good.
You'll be bloated and in the bathroom the bulk of the afternoon without a buzz.
Yeah.
Needing an antacid.
Yeah, probably needing an antacid. Like, you know what? I might have gone too far with the carbonated beverages. Like if you chugged a 6-pack of LaCroix, you'd feel the same way. You'd be the exact same spot.
If you have burps like you would have the hiccups, you probably drank too much.
You know you went too far. When this is quickly devolving into a Jeff Foxworthy series of jokes. So
Northeast IPAs. Let's talk about we talked a little bit about the history. We talked about the big players in it, but let's talk about what are the main primary ingredients of a Northeast IPA that make it a Northeast IPA. I'm gonna ask both of you because you both have brewed them. And
Mark,
well, the grain bill. I mean, it's primarily it's going to be 2-row Pilsner malt. Something along that nature. And then you can play around with some wheat and some oat, flaked oats, flaked wheat. I've seen some recipes where they've actually gone up to 50% of flaked oats. I wouldn't recommend doing that because of the stuck mash. Yeah, exactly. But a lot of people are trying to do that because they're looking for the cloudy effect. Really, the cloudiness can come from the yeast and the dry hopping schedule. That's really where you're going to get your cloudiness. You don't need to mess around with
well, they're cheating. If the house yeast can't make cloudy, they've got to do another adjunct to get it done, right?
Right.
Because a lot of breweries have spent a decade or more purifying their yeast strains, right? And maturing it for clarity just to have the whole world stop and say, no, clarity is not a thing that matters anymore.
Yeah, or if you're Jester King, you're like, mixed house. I'm going to use this yeast in everything.
Yeah, well, they do a lot of wild fermentation where they just take a bunch of wort out to the field and leave it.
Obviously, I was there a couple weeks ago. They have a cool ship up in the top floor, and they just open up the windows.
It's gigantic flatbed.
It's just this gigantic flatbed table that's made of tin, and they open up the windows. And he showed me how they do it, and it's just like he said, the gods just wisp the yeast into the cool ship, and it's beautiful, amazing, like stained glass up there. And, it's pretty awesome, actually.
Tell me more about that trip. Let's just do that.
Yeah. So obviously, Austin is not necessarily known as a hotbed for craft beer, although they have Austin Beer Works. They have Jester King is about 30 minutes outside of there. Well, we visited Jester King, and it's everything that I had heard about and thought about. Yes, it is in the middle of nowhere. Yes, they had spectacular bills. The thing that I thought was phenomenal about Jester King was their bottle list. Their bottle list was, I don't know, it was like, 50, 60 deep of other breweries that you could buy and drink from there. And that's not something that you see at a lot of breweries,
Yeah. Around
here, exactly.
In other communities, a lot of breweries carry handles from other local breweries.
But bottles.
Very common.
But 50 to 60 plus bottles.
That's unusual.
Bottles are a little unusual.
Yeah. So for me, like the fact that I could go there and just buy some really crazy bottles from the brewery or some of these other, I think they had Cascade, like they had, a bunch of different breweries was pretty cool. But, our friend, John Eberly, is working out there at Jester King, and he met us out there, gave us a run through of some beers, brought some rare corals, and we drank some beers, and it's just a great place to drink some beers.
You went to Florida too, right?
Florida?
Yeah. Did you go to Florida?
So on the way back from Jamaica, where we were for our anniversary trip, we had a 6-hour layover, and so I thought a 6-hour layover in Fort Lauderdale spells
go to a brewery.
Yeah,
go to a brewery. So he just dipped out to Funky Buddha.
I said,
Yeah.
"Oh, that sucks. I guess we'll go to Funky Buddha then."
Nuts.
We went to Funky Buddha, which is as one of my favorite breweries. As I have almost a whole top shelf
You get a wall
dedicated to their beers, and I'm probably one of their biggest fans.
Mm-hmm.
But went there and drank some fresh maple bacon coffee porter on draft, and I had one of the best burgers I've had in a long time. A spectacular brewery, really cool culture they've created there. I mean, they've got an awesome brewery there.
Right.
So did get to hit Funky Buddha, which was great. And anytime you can get maple bacon coffee porter on draft,
Oh my God, yes.
it's pretty amazing. It's
Anything
a good day.
with maple and bacon in it, and you will find me very close
that's
by.
right.
Very close
So
by. I'm a maple fiend,
so
bacon
we're
fiend.
able to hit that.
Cool.
Awesome.
So, Mark, you have a very colorful beer history.
I do. A quick background. I started home brewing, back when the craze really started back in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
So I was kind of out there on the front edge there with the, extract brewing and that type of thing. And then when all grain brewing came out, I was all about that, and just really been, kind of going full steam with that. I was fortunate enough to have an experience with a buddy of mine from college who started his own brewery and asked me to come in and help him build it out from the ground up. So this is in Bluffton, South Carolina, a brewery called Southern Barrel. And so I spent a year there helping them build out the brewery. I did some assistant brewing there, and then actually left as a GM, helped to get the beer marketed.
I just had one of their IPAs this weekend.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
It's solid stuff. Pretty solid beer. Mm-hmm. So we've got, we just purchased some land in Pennsylvania, and we are in the process of building out a hop yard, a 1 acre hop yard we're going to start out with. And we've also got plans to put a 7-barrel brew house in there. And we're probably going to down the road grow some of our own barley, some of our own wheat.
That's
some of our
awesome.
Own, yep.
Yeah.
So we'll have the idea is to make really localized beer, and beer that can only get in one place,
Right.
and see where that goes. So
It's so fortuitous that you're doing this, because we've talked about hyperlocalism
yeah,
ad
At
nauseum.
length, yeah.
All 2 people who have listened to all of the episodes are probably already tired of us mentioning just
Hyperlocalism.
how
localism.
how in order to control your ingredient chain, you're gonna have to make it
Yeah.
right
You have
at
to
the end
make
of the
it.
day.
Exactly.
Now that's extremist thought, but the idea in general holds true, is that you can only control the things that you're making. Now there's seasonality, there are challenges that come with that, but that's really cool. It's interesting.
Yeah, we're excited about it.
So the timing on that is when again?
Well, the hop yard is going to be built in the ground this year, and then working on getting the shed, we call it. It's a 5,400 square foot building, but getting that ready to house the brewing equipment, probably like a year out or so.
Cool.
So we'll give you an update down the road. We'll keep you updated.
Yeah, definitely do that.
So,
Definitely do
on
that.
that
We'll have
note,
you back. Once that's up, we'll have you back. I want to talk about.
I appreciate it.
Well, I'd like to talk. I
could even
want to
do
hear
that.
about the
Road
process,
trip.
like what went well, what broke, what did you face, what does the supply chain
It'll be
look
his
like?
second brewery that's helped open.
Yeah.
So, tell me about I know that you just recently went on a birthday brewery trip
Yeah.
too. So where did you hit, and what did you like best?
We hit some awesome places. We it's basically a New England tour. We made a stop at Trillium. We went to Lamplighter it's in Boston.
Cambridge.
I think is it Cambridge? Yeah. I think it is Cambridge. Yeah.
Yeah,
We're there.
Cambridge.
We're about to drink
And
one
then
actually.
we trekked our way up to Portland, Maine, and Battery Steel. Check that out. There's a couple new microbreweries up there that are really good. And then on our way back, we stopped at a brewery in upstate New York called Sloop, which is a pretty cool. It's like a farmstead brewery, making some really good sours, really good New England IPAs. So it was fun. So I think in total, in like a 4-day trip, I think we hit like 12 or 13 different.
I just did that in April in Seattle. It was like every brewer I could possibly squeeze in.
And I'm not ashamed of that either.
Well, we were on our way back from Asheville yesterday, and I said, well, we're going to go through Asheville anyway. Let me check out Highwire Brewing while we're there. And so we literally went in there, we had a beer, and then we got right back on the road.
Yeah. Yeah, so we came home with a trunk full of beers from all over the place and had a great time.
Those are the best kind of trips.
Yeah, my
Yeah, that's
address
fun.
is 10 Perimeter Sign.
Easy with the
Yeah.
public disclosure. You could ruffle feathers.
No. So, what was your favorite brewery out of that trip? I mean, you visited some of the big hitters.
It's hard to. It's hard to say because every one of them has something that's
they're also unique a lot of the time.
Some of them are really antiseptic and very hipsterish, and then other ones are just kind of like funky local folks just brewing beers. So it's really hard to say. I guess I like the diversity is what I like. I like going into different places, checking out their different interpretations of the beers, and just the whole experience really.
Was it last weekend? Weekend before, there's a local brewery near me called Three Taverns, and they do a really, really good job with stuff.
Belgian inspired.
Yeah, Belgium.
Yeah, their brewer Joren is actually from Belgium.
Yeah, so I was in there on a tour with someone who had not been on a tour of any of the local breweries in that corner of the city, and we're just kind of crowd watching because I was in there, like they opened like 3 years ago. I think it was almost exactly 3 years ago they opened. And we were in there and it was all just heads. It was just people who are so into the game, so into the hops, so into the Belgian styles. Like anybody in there, you would say the words App 12 and they knew exactly what you're saying. They knew exactly what you're talking about, right? Yeah. But I was in there just within the last week or so, and it was a lot of very diverse people, which I thought was just fantastic. There was like sorority group in there. There was like a bunch of like bridal shower. There's like tons of like hipsters, and there's like just country dudes, and it was so cool. I was like, look at what craft beer looks like now. Yeah, forget what you think craft beer looks like. That's what it looks like now. That's not what it looked like 10 years ago.
I was in St. Elmo, which is in Austin, and I would say half of the population in the room at St. Elmo were under the age of 3.
Yeah.
And I was like, it was kids
and they were all drinking.
Around.
Yeah, some breweries draw kids. Like they get the food truck.
Yeah, they had the food truck up. But the diversity of the audience and the age group,
I just love it.
I love it, man.
Thank goodness.
I love it.
Thank goodness the diversity's there. Yeah. It adds more to. It makes a more colorful environment.
Yeah, exactly. It adds to the community.
It's more community. That's when you know your community.
We were at
craft brewery should be about community.
Yeah, we were at Appalachian Mountain Brewing.
It's going to survive as a thing, exactly.
And then we were at Appalachian Mountain Brewing, which is in Boone, North Carolina, and they do a lot of partnering with Burial and a lot of those local. They're a great brewery, but the cool thing is that there were like 60 to 70-year-old men, and there were like college kids, and there were like sorority girls, and there were kids, and it was like,
I love seeing that.
This is the perfect example of what a craft beer adds to a community, which is why I fight for it so much.
Yeah, absolutely. I did a couple of the local breweries, Abbey of the Holy Goats. Mm-hmm. Not only one of the better names of a brewery you'll find.
For that name.
One of the few that was founded by a woman.
That's right.
And the brewmaster is she's also the brewmaster, and I think they have a really unique story. Definitely, everybody should look that up. But I don't think that the beer community as a whole, not just craft, as a whole, is diverse enough.
I agree.
From staffing or from which may be an overgeneralization, and I'll admit that. But from a brewmaster standpoint, a founder standpoint, people on the board, there are not a lot of minorities and women that are participating in that. I think it's starting. Maybe it's just popular enough, and it was just hopheads. It was just hopheads who were homebrewing.
The owner of New Belgium is a female.
Which is fantastic.
Which is amazing.
So I'm really encouraged to see that kind of diversity and to see craft beer specifically open up, and because it is all about community, and every community that you're in, there's some diversity there.
So how do we mirror the picture of what actual community looks like, right? Like how do we, if our communities are diverse, like how do we mirror that in our culture, whatever that culture is? And so we're actually we've talked about this. We're actually gonna dedicate future episodes of this podcast.
We're putting together an episode of future that's focused on women in brewing and then minorities in brewing.
And minorities in brewing,
and kind of shine a light on that and tell some good stories.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah,
and let's talk about why it's not and how it can be, and make sure that we're not a part of the problem too.
Yeah.
Well, you want to be part of, I really enjoy being part of positive change.
Yeah, the solution, right? Exactly.
So, and speaking of that, there is a lot of negativity negativity right now going on around craft beer because there's so much money coming in that a lot of people who have been part of craft beer for a long period of time will say is bad. It's negative money, right? When bad money comes in, quote unquote, bad money comes in, then all of a sudden bad comments get made. So if somebody gets bought by AB InBev and all of a sudden the hammers come out and then so if you were to show a Wicked Weed, a photo of a Wicked Weed in your beer group on Facebook, right? Or if you go on Untapped and you take a photo of your 10 barrel and you just get hammered by people like, oh, I wouldn't buy that. What are you doing? And people get really upset around that. And I think we're just, as a community, handling that wrong. I just think we could be more positive. I think we could say that is a tasty beer. Like you can have a Goose Island, you could have...
We saw a lot. We saw that a lot with the Wicked Weed.
Wicked Weed was an incredible explosion, probably the biggest one yet. Although Eliason was pretty big out west. I would say that there's a better way of handling this, and we're not handling it particularly well. I think we should, if someone posts a photo of their 10 barrel cucumber sour, we should say that's a tasty beer. You know what else is really tasty? A Tritonia. You know what else is really tasted? Another, like a local option, or at least one that is owned by what you would call an independent brewer, right? Yeah.
I think it's okay to separate that too. I think it's okay to separate the fact that Wicked Weed brews some really good beers.
Yeah. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with supporting an AB InBev owned brewery if that's how you roll. I am not going to, take that from you.
Well, in a way too, it's kind of a passive way of saying to those breweries that, hey, look, we liked your products. You liked your sense of community, everything you were doing. So it's cool, whatever you're doing now. But, what's important to us is that you maintain what brought us to you in the first place.
Yeah, the integrity of the product too.
And see where that goes.
Well, passive without being passive aggressive. Like I want to influence someone who clearly has a maturing palate or a really strong palate for beer. And if they have an understanding of who owns who, maybe they know, maybe they don't know. And Jason and I have actually talked at length about it being somewhat of a crime that the bulk of the shelf space is owned by a bunch of brands, owned by international conglomerates in the grocery store.
Yep.
Right? And you're always fighting for that shelf space in there. And that most people go in there and they're like, oh, wow, this Goose Island has a really good label. Or, wow, this 10 barrel, cool, Helvetica, who knew? Yeah. Like, you're... Font joke. Mm-hmm. So it's really cool that, if we can say that is good beer, right? Listen, and Jason and I talked about this recently.
Yeah.
They're still making pretty good beer. Look, Wicked Weed's beer is not fundamentally
and they may make really good beer 5 years from now.
Unless they can't make sours as well anymore because that guy left. But, 10 Barrel's still making the same beer. Goose Island's making the same beer and contributing to the community with an effort toward appearing to have very little change. And all that is really good, but that doesn't mean that half their money isn't going to some place that is paying lobbyists at the state or federal level that wants to combat something that we think contributes to the community in a better way, right? So because their brewery, an InBev brewery, can make millions and millions and millions of barrels of beer with 3 employees. That's how efficient they are at logistics, right? Sure. Meanwhile, a 1,000 barrel brewery employs 5 people, 15 people, right? I think that if we can just say on Facebook, hey, instead of calling somebody out, call them a jerk or bad mouthing their choices just by flame throwing, I just want to be more positive. That's all. I'm just saying.
You can tell
that's good. Also try
There's
this.
been a lot of backlash. As much as there was backlash at some of these folks for getting bought out, there was also a lot of backlash from people saying, "Hey, like let's try to be positive about it, even if we're going to be negative." Even and that's why like I've rethought about it myself. It's like, okay, well, I don't like that Wicked Weed got bought. I'm actually sad. My trip to Asheville this week, this weekend, was the very first time that I've ever been to Asheville and not went to Funkatorium because it's such a cool place. But at the same time, I'm just going to choose to not go there and let that be my kind of message.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't walk into the Death Star and do the moonwalk.
No. But I did. But on that note, though, I did go to Fonta Flora, which is Fonta Flora is in Morganton, and Fonta Flora is an amazing brewer there. And having where there are breweries that get bought up in Asheville, other breweries will pop up. So it's there's a vacuum that will happen.
I like this Santilli.
So we're drinking we've opened up a bunch of beers since then.
Of beers.
We've opened up the Night Shift Santilli, which is really good.
Yeah, really good.
The beer that I'm drinking right now is the Finback IPA, and they're out of Queens, New York.
That label is wicked.
Yeah, Queens, New York, and then let's see.
Yeah, you bring that one up. 10 days later, it's not as good as
and then everybody has the Cambridge Lamp Lifter.
Yeah.
Had some mixed reviews.
Which mixed reviews, 8.5%. That'll happen.
But we've got some, we still have some from Fort George. We've got some from Night Shift. We got the 87.
You guys are crushing me, man. These things are coming fast and furious. I got a physical in the morning.
We got Trillium.
I'm supposed to be fasting.
We've got Trillium Scale.
Yeah, I'm going to be like, I thought you meant drinking fast.
We've got Burial Gang of Blades. Speaking of Burial out of Asheville, we got their double IPA Gang of Blades. And then we also have Dialed In.
Yes.
Which is their brewed with Sauvignon Blanc grape juice. And then Fort George Three-Way IPA, which is a pretty cool IPA. And then my personal favorite out of this thing, honestly, I didn't realize that I had any left. And so it's the Creature Comforts Modern Times collaboration, Modern Comforts, which is probably
really
the best beer and the best IPA that they've ever brewed. And it's really sad this is not an all-the-time IPA.
Yeah.
So let's open up
We're going to be busy.
Let's see what everybody's saying. I want to see what everybody's saying about this lamp lifter.
No, we don't want to talk about it.
I'm going to do a...
we don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
The nose.
Diacetyl.
Cheryl Crow.
Phenomenal.
Cheryl Crow said, "Let's give them something to talk about."
It
but I don't
turned
want
in
to talk
7
about
to 8 days.
Like, kid you not, it's changed a lot.
It's skunky funky
in that time frame.
It's kind of like a hoppy Heineken.
It's just weird.
It
really hoppy.
Way, I kid you not.
It's
it was not that way when I bought it on 618. And it came out 6.
I'm not the biggest double IPA fan. I'm not into sweet and like I like bitter and hoppy and dry. That's more and sour, clearly.
Yeah.
Right. But I'm not the biggest double IPA fan, so I may not be the best judge.
Yeah.
The hell are you talking about?
Regulatory prize.
Very sensitive.
The peanut gallery literally livened up.
We're talking about we're talking about Creature Comforts. They also put out the Tropicalissima, which is their Tropicalia double IPA.
Yeah, I'm like the only one who hadn't tried it, so I was like, ooh.
I haven't had that.
I will try it after the show. I'll open it up after the show.
Like I said, I don't chase down double IPAs typically.
Yeah.
Too sweet. Awesome.
So we talked about travels. Obviously,
we talked about negativity. Can we just do better in the social space and just come from the heart? Be good.
Exactly.
Brotherly love.
I think that it's important for us to keep perspective of the fact that we're a very, very, very small minority in beer in general. Yeah. And let's try to
gross minority.
Let's do a better job of supporting each other, even if it means saying nothing at all.
We're all in this together.
Yep.
Yeah, you got to stick together on it. What is craft beer? 12% total of the
12,
beer.
13.
It's much larger than it was 10, 15 years ago.
And what's funny is
growing every year.
The Brews Association labels craft brewers as capping at 6 million barrels a year, but there isn't a single one that does. I think Sam Adams has 2.5.
Think about that.
Wow.
Like so there's room to grow.
There's a lot of room to
some
grow,
of the big players, Sam Adams and Sierra Nevada and New Belgium. Some of the ones that are really, now they have multiple facilities. I would imagine a couple others would get there pretty soon too.
Sure.
So let's talk about one more thing. We're talking about industry news and we're talking about things that we're talking about in craft beer.
Topic.
Let's talk about the brewery going into partnership with Castanea Partners. Castanea Partners, if you're not familiar.
Financial news.
This happened in May 19th of 2017. If you don't know who Castanea Partners is, They're actually, I didn't realize this, but one of their portfolio companies is my favorite ice cream. And disclosure note, I actually helped create an ice cream with them, Jenny's Ice Cream out of Columbus, Ohio. And I had not realized that Jenny's is actually a part of
such a renaissance man.
I'm just saying, I should say that I'm just saying it was a coffee ice cream, but I'm just saying that there's a reason why I brought them up. It's because they're the best ice cream maker in the country. They're a part of the Castanea Partners as well. That means they've received some funding for it. And if I look at their
if they want to advertise on the show, they could just email us.
Sip
at lastbeershow.com.
I'll just message them directly. But they list
it goes right to my inbox.
They their current portfolio of companies doesn't really include any other craft breweries. It includes Jenny's Ice Cream, First Aid Beauty, Times, and some other folks, which I'm not really familiar with. Mm-hmm. So they're not a huge investment backer per se. I know that the brewery is family owned. If you know anything about the brewery, the Family Rue, and they're actually they're maintaining it as a family owned brewery, and they say, as they always do, nothing is going to change. I'm a Reserve Society member, so I'll actually see whether or not that's true. But did you notice?
It's true.
Did you notice that the difference in how the brewery was treated with this kind of investment, versus say,
I think breweries sold 50%, and I think Brooklyn did a similar thing. Sweetwater, heavy private investment. Mm-hmm. Like, there's a way of doing it that is, I don't want to say classy, that's not the right word, but it's what's coming to mind. The idea that you're working through things gracefully in a way that you're implying that you're protecting the product, you're protecting the people who have associated themselves with your brand and your products that you're creating. And I think that means a lot. Like, you can do what Wicked Weed did or 10 Barrel did and just alienate everybody and say, you know what? Peace out. Drop the mic.
$800 million.
And walk out, $800 million in your pocket. You're okay. You buy an island, chillax. But
drink as much Corona as you want.
All the Coronas you want on an island.
Or an Anheuser-Busch.
Zero.
Limeritas.
Whatever. The king of
something.
So, I think that is probably the way to handle it. I know that other breweries have gone into partnerships and founded like sort of their own mini conglomerates, right? Oscar Blues, Cigar City. Mm-hmm. Like, there are different ways of handling influencing buying power and influencing reach and distribution and pooling resources in a way that helps you.
Didn't Greg Koch from Stone start?
He started an investment fund.
An investment fund for craft breweries.
Basically, he's like a VC fund. He started, and there are I think there's 10 breweries all pitching into that. He's not the only one paying for it. And they give out loans basically to really small microbreweries that can't afford a fermenter and have no real big investment, no relationships to VCs and stuff like that. Yeah.
Which is awesome.
I think it's important because if what happens is, and look, a microbrewery that makes 10,000 barrels a year employs a lot more people in your city than AB InBev does.
That's exactly right.
10 times the number of employees.
Yes.
So I think that when you're talking about community contribution, I think that there's something to be said for not only, like we mentioned, cultural aspect, but the integration of community, because it's rarely one brewery. It starts as one brewery, but next thing you know, there's 2 breweries on that street. And then there's 3 in the neighborhood. And then there's 4 on the block. And then they're all doing collaborative brewing. Yep. And then they're all doing things like naming a beer after the neighborhood and collaborating on it to draw people into the neighborhood from other areas of the city, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Centilly's
one of them. So I think that
highway.
Yes.
I think that the way that they contribute to the neighborhood is meaningful, even if they're not producing millions in revenue. They're not contributing enormously to the tax portfolio of the county, but they are doing things that contribute at a very local level. They bring a food truck to the front on a Saturday, and everybody comes.
They support local organizations and charities,
and there's a wave to it, right? Instead of automation, they're doing everything the hard way, and there's 5,000 of them.
Yep,
there's 5,000 of them,
and growing.
Yeah, and more.
Well, there are 2,500 licenses filed around the country right now. So there's very soon, in the next couple of years, going to be 7,500. ish. Now some of those are going to follow. Let's just say there's 7,000 breweries in the country. It is about to absolutely explode.
Which would eclipse pre-prohibition levels, I think, which were in the 4,000 to 5,000.
I have not read the Wikipedia page.
It's close, though. You're right.
Pre-prohibition number of breweries,
You're right. It is.
Early 4,000s.
But I'm willing to.
And the only reason
I'll
that
accept
industry
it.
crashed was because of prohibition. It wasn't because people didn't want it.
But it was all super localized. You couldn't
Right.
trade it. You couldn't, you know.
Well, distribution was very different. All they had was a railroad. They didn't have trucks that could carry the tonnage we can now. They had railroad,
It was all railroad.
right? They had no
Or
internet.
you just drink it in your
Yeah.
neighborhood.
Again, they had no internet,
but
so
we're
how would
backing
people
into
even know
that.
about it?
We're backing into that.
Well, they didn't, unless you're the traveling
Hyper
Bible salesman in that area.
localism.
Hyperlocalism.
And it
We're
was.
backing into
That's
it.
when craft. That's when beer was about the community. You had a brewery that sold within a 40-mile radius of the people that lived there. And craft beer is kind of returning to that. Obviously, the secondary
Yeah.
market has a big pull on that. We were talking about that earlier. Where how the secondary market influences craft beer.
I think it does. I think we're going to have to get used to pricing changes. There's a lot of bumps to drive over, I think, as a community and the breweries as businesses that I can't personally speak to. But I would say that it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah,
a lot of fun having Mark.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah,
Mark's been
happy
gone.
to be here.
A lot of fun.
I had a
back.
conversation with a friend of mine who lives in California, and I mentioned that somebody posted something about a Golden Road beer, and I said, "Well, it's really sad that it's Anheuser-Busch owned." I think the name of the beer was something about a lion among the goats or something like that, or lion among the goats or something like
The
that.
sheep or something.
Yeah, something among the sheep, and I thought that was pretty ironic, considering the fact that Golden
They're
Road
owned by
is
the lion
a
among the
big
sheep.
brewery
big-
owned by
the biggest
in the
lions.
middle of craft beer, right? And I made that comment on Twitter, and a friend of mine who lives in California said, "Wait, what's wrong with Golden Road?" And I told him that they were owned by Anheuser-Busch, and he said, "Well, shoot," he said, "I don't actually like that because I don't like the fact that you can buy that beer in Atlanta." And that is a different hyper-localism comment that I hadn't actually thought about. But he said, "I don't actually like it that you can buy this beer in Atlanta. It's a local beer
It's
for
our
me."
beer. It's our local beer.
We've
right?
talked about how people associate themselves with certain brands. They help identify who you are. Like you choose your sport. You grow up around sports teams and they help become part of your identity. You grow up wearing specific brands of running shoes or shirts and these different types of things that help define who you are and what you consume, the restaurants you eat at, the beers you consume, the food you buy, the brand of cereal you buy does help color your world. Nobody needs to know that Jason eats Cocoa Puffs still at the age of 30.
But I do.
But he does. And, that's his thing, and it defines him, makes him feel wonderful, and he goes into his day
One thing defines me.
having been Cocoa Puffed. So,
I'm cool for
you want an after party? We can keep this one short. We don't even have to after party.
I mean, it's absolutely. I think that
After party.
As we continue to move on, I think that it will things will change and we will have to live with it. And I think that we're okay with that. Honestly, we are at a place in craft beer right now where our access to craft beer is better than it's ever been in the history of mankind. And I can go to any store right now and literally close my eyes and point and pick a really awesome craft beer. That to me, it says a lot and says we have a lot to be thankful for. Yep. That means we should be a lot more positive on social media and stuff. And
you should be.
You know what? So what? We bought out. Who cares? There's 10 other breweries in Asheville right now brewing really good beers that I can buy.
Good point. Very good point.
And I'll go buy somebody else's sour beers.
I did see.
You're doing a terrible job at after party.
Yeah, I am. After party. So after party, we just kind of kick it and we talk about like life and things.
It's kind of personal. Let's not do it. We'll save it.
Yeah?
I'm taking all of this one.
No,
for it.
I want to do this. So because we have a studio audience.
You have a studio audience.
I want to ask you what is
Pass the mic.
What's the best beer that you drank here recently? Because we've got some other folks. What's the best beer that you've drank recently?
We've got 7 minutes.
I would have said so much for subtlety.
Who's that guy?
But I'm Justin.
Hi, Justin.
But 9 days ago when I got it, I would have said that. But today, no, not so much. It's not anywhere near.
Go
It's
easy now. They're nice
so
people
much
that
for
make
subtlety.
that.
Oh yeah.
Look,
No,
the
I didn't even
Chief
check
Hopper
into
is a hoppy saison. It was awesome. They had a sour that I got, awesome. And the other 3 of those that I drank, awesome.
I'm getting.
But that one kind of became a malt bomb.
Let us sit in your trunk over the weekend.
Well,
So-
I will say that we are also drinking the Dialed In, the Sauvignon Blanc version of Dialed In from Trillium, and that is a freaking delicious beer. It's a double IPA.
Oh, I can't wait to get to it. Right now, I'm slumming through the Creature Comforts Modern Comforts.
We are crushing some Northeast IPAs tonight here, and it's been a lot of fun. It's been fun having a studio audience. We should do this more often.
Have a group.
And then thank you, Mark.
Sweet, see you next Monday.
Yeah, awesome. See you next Monday.
We've got more guest episodes coming up. We've got
Jim Varell of Pace Magazine
Pace
was
Magazine.
Actually going to be with us tonight.
We're putting together some women brewers,
women in brewing.
some minority brewers,
That's right.
And we want to put a panel together.
Yeah, we want to talk about some of these things that a lot of other people aren't talking about.
Close the year out
that
strong.
we wonder, like, why aren't there more African Americans in craft beer? Because I know that they drink it. A friend of mine, Jason
Everybody
Jones, here in Atlanta, actually
Everybody
puts
drinks
together.
beer.
Everybody drinks beer. He puts together tours here, Hotspot Tours. My friend Dennis, who is Ale Sharpton, is internationally known, but he's known throughout the microphone. He is an amazing craft beer ambassador. He's here in Atlanta, and he's African American. I want to find out why there aren't more African Americans in craft beer and what we can do to help with that.
Yeah.
Because I feel like a lot of times we create these really cool niche kind of cool kids clubs, and like I want everyone to know that they're welcome.
All right, we're going to wrap this up. We've been going an hour.
We've had a good time.
I think we need to just shut it down.
I want to say thanks to Justin and Brendan for bringing
Peanut
some
Gallery.
amazing
you
fresh
guys are awesome.
IPAs.
Thank
Thanks
you.
to Jason.
Gallery. Thank you guys.
Thanks to Jason Serrata for
Thanks,
bringing.
Wayne.
Thanks for Jason Serrata and Tom Morin for donating some fresh Northeast IPAs as well.
Absolutely.
Thanks to Mark Collins.
Thanks, Jason. Love you,
Collins
man.
for
Thanks
joining
having
us.
me on.
We're going to put links to follow Mark on social media.
Yep, absolutely.
you.
And
In the
we'll
show
have Mark
notes.
on again.
In the
Mark's
show
here
notes.
every couple of weeks.
Yep.
And we'll have Mark on again. He's definitely a great guy.
It turns out he works across the street from your house.
Turns out he works across the street from my house.
Convenient.
Freaking nuts.
Woohoo.
He's like, I'm coming over for beers. I said, hold on,
That
let me put
is
on some shorts.
Crazy. All right, dude. I'll see you, Jason.
Have a great month. We'll see you guys.
Bye, guys.
Cheers.
Bye.
If you have a question or something you would like us to discuss, drop us an email, sip@lastbeershow.com, or hit us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at The Last Beer Show. A reminder that we are proud members of the ABV Network. Go to abvnetwork.com to see all the amazing podcasts, or go to your podcast app of choice, search for something like The Last Beer Show, The Firewater Review, The Bourbon Daily, among others. And if you really want to have a good time, go to Instagram and follow the hashtag ABV Network Crew. There's always all kinds of stuff happening on there, and it's a lot of fun. So anyway, thanks for listening. Peace. Oh, wait. One more thing. Please do us a solid and go to iTunes, rate the show. We would be extremely grateful. Thank you very much. Thanks again for listening.